What's up, everybody? Hope everyone's having a great Monday, July 18th. There is no MLB games tonight, no slate of MLB games, but the Home Run Derby is tonight. Brendan Glasheen, Matt Meiselman. We'll also talk some NFL on this edition of the slate. No golf on this Monday. Well, maybe Jeff will give us a thought on Cam Smith winning in the way he played yesterday. Rory couldn't putt to save his life, so maybe Jeff has thoughts on Cam Smith and his not really a come from behind win. I don't even think Rory choked. It was more so that Cam Smith just had a better day. So we'll get thoughts from Jeff on that, as well as some NFL news. There was some Kyler Murray news this morning about an extension, but Meiselman's in the house. He'll hang around for both, I think. So looking forward to it. Get involved in the chat if you so please. All right, Matt Meiselman. We have never done, because I think last year at this time, myself, Adam Kaufman, and Steve Buchanan, we did a home run derby show, and we actually did a live show between Madden Sims, because last year we were still in Madden Sim World, where we would do a sim, and then in between the sims, we'd talk about the derby. And Ohtani was the story. He's not here. Soto beat Ohtani in the first round last year. People forget. But when it comes to betting the home run derby, and we've got the odds right now pulled up on the DraftKings Sportsbook, what are some things you keep in mind, or what's on your checklist when you go through the names and look at the odds and make up your mind?
Okay, so as a starting concept, I think the first thing to keep in mind is that this is an exhibition event. It's not like a real game where everyone has equal incentive to win. We don't really know what's going to happen. I think everyone who's listening to me needs to understand that we are guessing more than normal. Like when we normally talk about baseball betting, it's more derived from algorithms and math and numbers and logic, and this is a little more subjective. So just to get that out of the way, I actually do think there are some pretty solid angles here. And one of the things I like to look for just in general, but maybe in these like niche weird events, it's more important, is inconsistencies in the market. So you remember during the NBA playoffs, we would talk about things like, yeah, this team is favored over this team to win the championship, but in their series head-to-head, the opposite team is actually favored. So
right,
you figure out that in certain markets, it's more inefficient than in others. And I think for the home run derby, the example I'm going to give is that the odds to win are not as important in terms of like being efficient as the individual props. So to get really specific with an example, Corey Seager's prop line for total home runs in this event is higher than Julio Rodriguez's prop line for total home runs in the event. And yet Rodriguez is much shorter in terms of odds to win and is also favored over Seager in the first round. But Seager has a line at 28.5 and Rodriguez has a line at 26.5. Rodriguez is juiced towards the over, Seager's juiced towards the under. So maybe these are both more like 27.5. But all of that adds up to me. Like, I think this is basically a toss-up. One, because it's really random. It's an exhibition event. We have no idea, how these guys are going to do. But just like their prop lines are basically the same. So I think like the fact that anyone has a strong intuition here that this is far from a coin flip. I mean, this is true for a lot of the matchups, but specifically this one, like the prop lines are telling us this should be close. And yet you can get like plus 130 or so on Seager. So that's kind of like how I'm laying this out. I like Seager a lot for that head-to-head. I think Rodriguez is, it makes sense, right? Like he's the most exciting prospect in baseball. And for that reason, in an exhibition event, everyone's going to want to bet on him. And therefore he's overvalued. Like, doesn't that all kind of line up with at least the way I usually think about things?
Fair enough. And there are betting splits out right now, courtesy of the DraftKings Sportsbook. Looking at the DK Sportsbook, the odds, of course, Alonso's your favorite, then Schwarber. And just giving you the folks at home the splits. Where's all the money coming in? So Alonso, your favorite at plus 200, 43% of the money. A quarter of the bets on the home run derby are on Pete Alonso. The outright bets, of course, outright winner. Schwarber plus 340. He's getting 16% of the money, 17% of the bets. And then just going by bet percentage, Soto next, Julio Rodriguez, which you can elaborate on here in a moment, and then Ronald Acuna Jr. at 8%. So explain why for Rodriguez, even though folks could just look at 11% and go, well, that's not that much, but that's a big number for where his odds are and kind of what you laid out about Seager.
Right. He's a it's surprising that he's a long shot and yet he's still being bet ahead of guys who have shorter odds than him, like Acuna, like Soto. And then it's just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much the splits are going to change leading up to the event. Like, we still have almost 3 hours until this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rodriguez is like the public guy, maybe Alonso first, then Rodriguez. But as it gets closer, I would imagine that those splits start to amplify. Like, even more people will bet, even more casual bettors will lean towards Alonso and Schwarber and Rodriguez. I think that ends up being the top 3. So does it really matter what the public is doing? I mean, it's just an indication, right? Like, we're just trying to figure out, who might be overrated based on what the public is doing. It doesn't actually change the outcome, but I think it does tell us a little bit as far as like, maybe the odds aren't great for those 3 guys because so many people are betting them. It's unlikely that there's an edge on those 3 players.
Yeah. Again, if you've got home run derby, hot takes, thoughts, drop them in. What are so analytically, if you look at StatCast puts out numbers, you see this, if you watch Sunday Night Baseball or they do the ESPN will do the StatCast, I think, for the home run derby tonight. But you can look at things like average exit velocity. You can look at launch angle, sweet spot percentage, hard hit rate against fastballs. The other element, this is more of the human element, who's throwing the ball to these guys, right? That's a big part in this too.
I have no idea, right? Do you have any insight as like, is that public information yet? Like, what the batting practice guys look like?
Yeah, this is public information.
No, just like, has it been talked about? Because I don't know who's going to be pitching to each of those players yet.
So I don't have names in front of me in my research, but
yeah.
So Seager, for example, his dad is throwing to him. Jose Ramirez has a family friend throwing to him, but like Schwarber has some of these guys have dudes that actually throw. One of them has the nickname. He's known in Major League Baseball. His nickname is Money. So there's a handful of guys that have actual batting practice pitchers that are on big league staffs that are throwing to them, and others.
That's an advantage.
Sure, and others have friends. Stand by, because I can find some of this. But okay. Yeah, like that's a factor too. I think that we forget about. Well, you might not forget about it now when you want to bet on it.
Yeah. So I guess if there's 2 ways to like game the system a little, I think that's one. Like, let's, if there's some televised warm-ups, like batting practice for the Derby, maybe we can see how this looks. Maybe that would be one way to try to get an edge. And then the other one, I'm actually not sure how this works, but correct me if I'm wrong. We don't know the order for each matchup, right? Like, we don't know who's going first between Schwarber and Pujols. I think that comes out later because, and maybe that's why I don't think we actually have total home run props just for the first round yet. But just to hear what I'm saying, if Pujols goes before Schwarber's expectation for home runs drops dramatically because once he passes Pujols, it's over. He doesn't continue. So the number of home runs he would then be able to hit diminishes, and then an over-under bet on Schwarber gets affected by that. So like, if you can, I don't know, have some insight on who's preceding which player in which matchup, I think that also may even be more relevant than who the pitcher is.
Okay.
But I don't think we know that yet. I think that's going to come out later. Maybe someone in chat, or maybe, I don't know, maybe someone has this.
So I've got some of this now. So Seager, okay. I confirmed it's his dad.
Yep.
Julio Rodriguez is turning to his batting practice pitcher, Franmy. Looks like looks like a family friend. Alonso is using someone, a batting practice pitcher who threw to him in Colorado when he won the event.
Right. Alonso, notably, like, the pitching wasn't good for him. He won in spite of that, right? I think that's how it went. Like, Alonso had a bunch of like misfires thrown to him and he still won anyway. I think I'm remembering that right. Maybe that's
okay.
Wrong. But yeah,
here we go. So this is why I think Schwarber is also getting a lot of love in terms of the public betting. So Kyle Schwarber is turning to, and I'm going to botch the pronunciation, Mike. Oh, this is an easy one. Sanicola. Mike Sanicola played at the University of Miami, throws to Schwarber in the offseason. Schwarber refers to him as Money because his batting practice is so consistent.
Okay.
So that's his guy.
Yeah, I would say, given that information, and then given the fact that Schwarber is facing Pujols in the first round,
right?
It's kind of wild that
Schwarber's got the easiest path.
Right. It's kind of wild that Alonso has shorter odds than Schwarber. I will, like, if I had to bet one of those two guys to win, it's Schwarber before Alonso. I mean, Alonso has the track record of winning last year, but how much does that really matter? I don't know. Schwarber gets to face Pujols. It's almost like a buy, as everyone's been talking about. And then, yeah, maybe he's got the edge in terms of like easier guy throwing to him. So I would take Schwarber over Alonso. That, like, if it was, bet who goes further, or just if you had to pick one of those two guys, I think betting on Alonso just seems like a bad idea right now. The odds are very, very short.
So Soto's got a family friend, and one of the last ones is Jose Ramirez, Junior Betances, who is a AA. He's helping coach the Guardians AA affiliate.
That's not bad at all. I like Ramirez as a long shot to win this thing.
Okay.
Like, his odds are, if we exclude Pujols, who I think he should be excluded, Ramirez, I think, is the best value to win the whole thing. Like, Seager, I'm mostly interested in the head-to-head. But yep. Ramirez I think we've got 16 or 17 to 1 right now. Actually, 18 to 1. Like, I would do that far sooner than betting any of these shorter odds guys. Like, sure, Schwarber, I get what we're saying here, but his odds are a fifth of what Ramirez's are. Like, this is my favorite outright bet for sure.
Okay.
It's a home run derby. He's got a real batting practice guy, and he's, these guys aren't that different from each other in terms of home run capabilities. They're all good home run hitters. That's why they're in this thing, besides Pujols.
How do you feel about the longest home run prop?
So this stuff, I'm going to have a harder time. Like, maybe you've got some better insight here. The longest home run distance and the StatCast related things, I really don't know how best to approach this. Like, I'm sure there are people who have a good angle on this stuff.
So I'll say this.
I don't really know.
I'll say this. I do some stuff with Action Network as well. We did a show earlier today. Only, courtesy of our crew, only 5 times in Dodger Stadium history. If you want to hit a ball, so this number's moved. It was at 491.5. It's now at 493.5. The length of the longest Derby home run hit. Only 5 times in Dodger Stadium history. The ball has to basically clear Dodger Stadium for the ball to go this far. That's only happened 5 times in the history of the stadium. Mm-hmm. So McGuire did it twice, which, take that info with what you will. Granted, it was not batting practice. Stanton, and then I forget the other guy's name. But yeah, McGuire did it twice. So it's only happened 5 times. It
just going on like hunches and stuff, I would guess that unders make sense.
Yep.
I think largely because last year's home run derby was at Coors Field. And
sure,
that will tend to add a little recency bias in terms of like what the winning numbers should look like. The ball's not going to travel as far anywhere as it does in Colorado. So I kind of like what you're saying. I don't know if I actually want to bet under at 493.5. Like, in terms of boring bets and like stressful things to root for, to have to watch the entire thing and root for just one thing not to happen the entire time, like, that's the least fun bet that there is. So from an entertainment value, that bet's terrible. But it may be a good value bet. I'm just not really sure. I would think no one's hitting at 500, but in the 490s, like, that could be close.
Okay, Geoff Ulrich's going to join us shortly on the show. He should be here any minute, but we're going to talk some NFL as well. Unless, any other, how about matchups? So you already mentioned Seager. Is there another matchup that you like? Head-to-head?
I'm going with Ramirez too. I think Ramirez just across the board is undervalued. Do people just like not care about him? I don't really, maybe I'm missing something here, but Soto did notably beat Ohtani last year, like you said. Soto's been in the news a lot lately. Like, I don't know if that's playing into the odds, but these are very comparable home run hitters. So I don't really get, like, maybe Soto does deserve to be a small favorite, but Ramirez being plus 155 and being so much longer odds to win the thing overall, like, I just don't really understand it. Maybe I am missing something. This is an exhibition event. I don't know as much about it as I know about regular baseball, but just my intuition is that Ramirez is a good bet for like all of the markets.
Soto has the lowest pull percentage of any of these hitters. which,
Okay.
by the way, Dodger Stadium doesn't present an edge to lefties or righties. It's pretty even.
Yeah. I will say if it presents an edge to one specific player, Corey Seager played his entire career with the Dodgers before this season.
This is true.
And has not yet played in Dodger Stadium. He hasn't faced his former team yet. So if there's like a motivational edge, the only guy I would think that has that is Seager, or like maybe we just don't care about motivational edges at all. And that's totally fine. That's probably what I actually think. But if we're going to, if we're going to stretch ourselves a little bit and have to pick a narrative, like Seager has played here for many, many years, and he might want to prove something to the fans. I don't know. Do you buy into that at all, or is that just total nonsense?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think being comfortable with the atmosphere there's some value to that. But again, he's got his dad throwing to him, so I hope the dad's I hope he's sharp. I mean,
maybe his dad's been throwing to him his whole life. We don't know. Like his dad could be a great batting practice guy.
This is true. You're right. And Seager was in it, right? In 2016, is that right?
I feel like he's been in it before. Yeah, I don't remember the exact year, but that sounds familiar.
And you know who beat him? I think that year was Mark Trumbo.
That is a throwback. Wow.
Yeah, right. I heard that name today too, and I'm like, Mark Trumbo.
Are you sure that wasn't like 2006? That was
2016. 2016. Corey Seager had the Dodgers' second best home run derby performance when he hit 15 home runs in the first round. He lost to Mark Trumbo. Yep. So Dodgers Orioles outfielder. I thought he was a fat first baseman, but he's an outfielder.
Yeah.
Mark Trumbo.
He's a Kyle Schwarber-esque outfielder. Schwarber plays left field sometimes.
This is true.
He shouldn't, but that's kind of what they have to do. Bryce Harper was DHing every day.
The other thing about Soto that we have to think about too, he's also injured. I think he's not 100%. I'm shocked he's even in this thing.
Yeah, he's missed some games. I was going to be worried about, Judge isn't in this, and I'll just kind of tease this for tomorrow because I think we're going to have a show for the All-Star game for the DFS for that. But Aaron Judge also has been missing games. Like, I think he's the most expensive player on the DFS slate. So for Soto, yeah, you worry, like, there's so much at stake for him right now with his potential contract. I don't know how hard he's going to push himself. But Judge, like, he's not getting 3 at-bats in tomorrow's All-Star game. He's priced way up there. Mookie Betts also coming off an injury. I don't think it's quite 100%. Like, these are probably, if we're going to care about any narrative or subjective type variable, is a guy playing hurt has got to be the number one, like, for all sorts of considerations for All-Star weekend, because like the most important thing for most of these veterans is don't get injured at the All-Star week. Yeah. Everything else is secondary to that.
I mean, we talk a lot of Celtics on this show, even though it's not the NBA season, but we all remember what Kemba Walker did. I mean, that was basically the start of his demise, was playing in that All-Star game a couple years ago. My point is, it's happening now across all sports. These guys love the All-Star game. They want to go and party with all their peers. They want to be with their people. Like, they want to feel loved and great. And that's what these All-Star games are now. It's outside of the NFL. Like, no one cares about the Pro Bowl, but NBA, even this baseball one, it's in Los Angeles too. I think there's a draw there too. I get to go to LA for my break.
They're happy to go and play the All-Star game, have one at bat, and then go party. That's like, right? They'd rather that than miss the thing entirely.
Yeah. Well, now that it doesn't determine home field advantage, I mean, that's another incentive to not really care. And if you're Soto, you probably want to be there because everyone's talking about you and your contract, how you declined that big extension that you were offered. Yeah. So why not go to Los Angeles and start to tamper? That too. Right? He's gonna find his next team.
Yeah. Soto ends up on the Dodgers. I mean, I think the Dodgers are already the deserving World Series favorites. Yeah, it's going to be scary if they wind up with him. I don't know if that's actually possible, but the Dodgers have swung moves that were quite surprising already the last couple of years. So if it's characteristic for anyone, it's probably them. So
just real quick before you welcome in Geoff, who's your pick? Who do you like? Not necessarily from a betting angle, but who do you think is going to win it?
So I think Schwarber should be the favorite. He's not over 50% to win or anything, but I think he should be the favorite. My favorite bet is Jose Ramirez, but I think Schwarber is most likely.
Okay. Mark the tape. Not as confident as the Celtics, but
I don't speak in that tone that often. The Celtics they're an entirely different animal compared to most other things.
Geoff, They swing bats in this contest, not golf clubs, but we can ask you, who do you like to win the home run derby?
Dude, I don't even know who's in this thing. I don't know. This is
right.
like, I'm sorry,
now.
but like
This
is what we have Buchanan and Meiselman and Garion and all the smart guys for. It's baseball, not me. I don't know. Who's the beefiest guy in the contest?
There's 8 people. Just pick one. You might get lucky.
The most unathletic guy with like the natural swing. I don't know.
Jeff's on Albert Pujols.
Let's go. Let's go with Pujols. Why is he in it? He's like 100.
That's what we've been talking about. It doesn't make much sense. It's to honor him. It's this whole thing.
Look, I gave a pick for the NBA 3-point contest, and I basically said there's no way Karl Anthony Towns was winning, and then he won. So I'm not making a pick on this. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, there we go. You know what? I'll go with Pujols. Pujols is my pick. He's basically the same odds Towns was. So,
okay.
I don't know. I mean, look, Juan Soto just rejected all that money. Maybe he's got something to prove. Acuna Jr., I don't know. Seager looks like good odds.
Well, talk about someone to prove something, that he used to play for the Dodgers and now he's no longer there. Now he gets a chance to go back to that old ballpark and stick it to him or remind them.
It's just a home run derby, man. How could someone be plus 210 in an 8-man field? That seems ridiculous.
Yeah. Jeff is already, he agrees with us without even realizing it. This is kind of where we were at. Like Alonso is way overvalued. I like Seager. I like Ramirez. I can't bet. I know it was insane that Karl Anthony Towns won the 3-point contest.
It was.
I don't think people realized how much of an outlier that was. But I think Pujols winning this would be even more of an outlier.
Probably not Pujols. But like again, I think Seager, honestly, I mean, I just looking at this, like Seager at 1,200, that's where I would go. I mean, I don't know.
So Jeff,
cool? There, I even gave you an answer and said I wouldn't. So I don't know what else to do.
I think
Meiselman's talked all year.
Meiselman's going to stick around, but Jeff, real quick before we talk some NFL, would you care to weigh in on Cam Smith winning the Open?
Oh, I mean, look, great day for my bankroll. We
you did do
Cam Smith.
My apologies, Jeff. You did bring this up to me. You were a huge fan of Cam Smith. Did you get him at 40-1? Is that right?
No, I got him at 30-1. But I mean, yeah, Cam Smith was on the card last week. If you follow me, and you know, I said the strategy last week. I actually nailed it. I said you either bet Rory or you take 2 guys in the 20 to 30 range. And I thought if you weren't going to bet Rory, Cantlay and Cam Smith were the best value for outrights. And just the way the course played with the easier setting and Cam Smith being able to kind of just drive it wherever he wanted and then fire his irons in and obviously take advantage of his putter, it worked out perfectly for him. He had that one off day, but he was able to again, ride the hot putter on Sunday. Yeah, sure, he putted great, but I mean, that's what Cam Smith does. And when you put him on these birdie fest courses where the conditions are easy, that's where you're going to get the most upside with them. Happened at the Players in a little bit easier conditions, happened at the Tournament of Champions, and then happened at St. Andrews. You know, he's getting to like 15, 20, 30 under par at these contests, and there's no better putter in the world right now. It's simple as that. So, you know, in terms of like last week, like I said, I mean, I feel bad for Rory backers. I think they kind of got, you know, pipped there at the end, but I thought the better value was there. This week, I actually have a similar feeling about a guy named Davis Riley quickly before we head into the NFL. I mean, Davis Riley, 22-1, really high end putter, really good with his irons. I think that the course, you know, will lead to just being a little bit easier. He won't necessarily get in trouble off the tee or need to do much around the greens. So Davis Riley at 22-1 for the 3M Open. That's kind of my Cam Smith pick this week. The guy at the top of the board that where I kind of want to start, especially on DraftKings, because you got guys like McNeely, Hadwin down there. They got no business being 18-1. So start with Davis Riley. That's where I'm starting this week.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Jeff. You both have a understanding about what's going on in the National Football League. Our friends over at VSiN, there was a discussion this morning, more of a discussion. There was reporting by Michael Lombardi, who covers the NFL with VSiN. He's one of their main contributors on their shows. A report on Kyler Murray today. The club, this is a quote from Lombardi, the club, meaning the Cardinals, starting to feel like we are close to getting this done. It becomes easier to say yes, then it becomes easier to say no. So an extension working out right now between Murray and the Cardinals. Either of you have a thought on this with Kyler Murray and what it might mean for Lamar Jackson?
I mean, what is taking the Cardinals so long here? Like, what is the alternative? I mean, I don't. I don't know. I just don't like this Cardinals offseason at all. It's so weird. Why is there even, if you're either committed to Kyler Murray or you're not. And we talked about this earlier. Like we talked about this on the sled a little bit. Like it feels like the some of this like consternation with Kyler Murray seems to be Cliff Kingsbury related. I mean, I think that he's a guy who just thinks his offense would be able to run smoothly without Kyler Murray. And I really think that like that's kind of what's been the holdup between and you know, if Cliff Kingsbury thinks he can win without Kyler Murray, fine. He can't. I don't think that that's a thing. I don't think you could stick like Jimmy Garoppolo like you could in Kyle Shanahan's offense and win, at least from what I've seen. But I really do think that's kind of the holdup. And I think that you may see like almost like a Russell Wilson situation where the head coach in Kingsbury is almost like holding the quarterback back a bit. I wouldn't be shocked. So I just don't really like this Cardinals team. You know, they're going in with James Conner and oh my God, I can't even remember his name. The dude from Kansas City who Andy Reid loved. Anyways, that's their running backs. And it feels like Cliff Kingsbury is just going to ride these two guys, these
Damian
like
Williams?
older, Darrell Williams, sorry.
Darrell Williams, excuse me?
Yeah, Darrell Williams. And they're just going to ride these guys into the ground and like be happy with 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And now there's no DeAndre Hopkins to make up for a little bit of deficiencies in the passing game. I don't really like it. I mean, I think this Kyler Murray contract situation is just going to make things worse. So I don't know.
Do you think that they're just trying to use last season as leverage? Like Murray was playing hurt for a while last year. And are they just kind of like, is this a negotiation tactic? I haven't followed this that closely, but if I just had to guess, like you can point to last season and say to Kyler Murray's agent, like he wasn't that great. We don't want to pay him, you know, the max contract. We don't want to put him on the tier of Mahomes or whatever. Like, are they just trying to play games with him? Because if so, it seems very risky. Like you lose him and then it's going to set back the franchise for like a decade or something.
Yeah. I think there is some kind of like waiting game here. Like they almost know that like they're kind of paying the peak Kyler Murray too. I don't know. Like it feels like, okay, like that was his best year and it wasn't that good. And it seems like they're kind of just like they like I said, I almost feel like Kingsbury is a part of this. So it's a little strange. Yeah, there's definitely some like negotiating here between like, and using the Kyler Murray kind of, you know, maybe dip at the end of the year as a tactic, but it's definitely created some animosity. And it feels very much like a Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson situation forming right now, which I don't think is good for the team at all. And again, like,
and Russ lasted 10 years. Kyler Murray has only been in the league for a few.
Well, and I mean, I think Kyler is like, it's a different time in the NFL where quarterbacks have a little bit more power than Russ did back then. Like
for sure. Oh, for sure. Yes.
So it's not shocking to hear him speak up, but yeah, I mean, I mean, even if you're not a huge fan of Kyler Murray, like if you're Kingsbury, I just don't know what your alternative is. Like,
who's their backup?
Like, there's just no alternative.
I played Colt McCoy a lot in DFS last year. I think that has to be the guy. That is he still on the team?
Yeah, he is. He's a backup.
Oh my God.
They're not winning with him.
No, I mean, they may not win with Kyler Murray, right?
No, it's a really tough division regardless. Maybe that could be part of it. Like we don't need to pay out a bunch of money if we're not going to make the playoffs anyway.
I don't know though. I think they think they're going to make the playoffs. That's the thing. Like I think they like Kingsbury thinks like he can do it. And
I'm pulling up now what their playoff odds are.
I'm glad you brought this up because their win total is set. Win total's at 8.5, and to make the playoffs, yes plus 125, no minus 150.
Right. So it's close enough that the team should be trying to make the playoffs, but this is not a sure thing by any stretch.
No, for sure. And I mean, I think they have two teams that are clearly, I think are clearly going to be better than them in their division. Maybe not like by leaps and bounds, but like I would take both those teams in a heartbeat over them if you're saying pick one between them and the Cardinals. So, and then you do look at their schedule, like it's not that easy either. So, yeah, and then the DeAndre Hopkins things is just, I think that's like kind of the elixir there where it's just not good. Like I think the offense will struggle out of the gates. I don't know what this Kyler thing's going to do to his preparation. And I don't really like some of the things that are happening on defense. Like they do not have a good secondary in my opinion. So yeah, lots of reasons for me to not like the Cardinals next year.
Hollywood Brown doesn't do it for you?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, I think he's fine, but like, he is what he is. Like, I don't think he's going to, like, he's not DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins is a difference maker, a guy who makes contested catches, a guy who comes down with catches balls he shouldn't. Hollywood Brown is a speedster who can definitely break free for some big plays, but he's not going to like elevate your quarterback play necessarily like DeAndre Hopkins did to some of the guys in Houston, like before Deshaun Watson and with Deshaun Watson. So
right.
No, not necessarily doing it for me. It's fine as a pickup, but
right. But from a physical standpoint, go up and catch a ball in traffic. That's not who he is.
I mean, he certainly hasn't been that guy with, for his first 3 years.
Hopkins is probably in the second tier of best receivers in the league. I think like there's the Cup and Adams tier. And then below that, like Hopkins might be right there for the next best choices. I think his numbers have suffered because of the system he's been in. And the Cardinals have had some receiver depth. They also have they've had a good running game. They have a quarterback who runs a lot, but like efficiency wise, like Hopkins has been as good as just about anybody. Like, and Hollywood Brown looks way better than he is. Yeah. He's really fast. He also drops a ton of balls, and I mean, he's good. That's about it. He's not great though.
It's a perfect way to put it. He looks great out there on the field. It looks like he's getting open all the time. And then it's like, oh, he ran the wrong route or something, or, he just makes a drop, or it's just like, maybe it's just bad timing. But I don't, you can make the case that like Hollywood Brown was in a run first offense too, but he was the primary receiver.
Right. The difference is they didn't have other options like the Cardinals did. It was a run first offense, but all the passes went to him and Mark Andrews.
Yeah. So I don't know. And Kingsbury, as you mentioned with Hopkins, like he likes to spread it around. So I don't know how much value like Marquise Brown is necessarily going to add to this offense. I don't know. This really boils down to it. I just don't like the way Kingsbury runs the team. That's really what this boils down to. So I'm definitely out on the Cardinals. 8.5. I'll take the under.
And they are at plus 400 to win the division. Meiselman, me and Geoff talked about this last week because the Jimmy Garoppolo news came out last week that they are still, in all likelihood, Tom Pelissero from the NFL Network was reporting that in all likelihood, once Jimmy Garoppolo gets, as he progresses after having a successful physical, the plan is to still trade him. That's the plan. So he's going through those testing periods now. And San Francisco is plus 150 to win the NFC West, not too far behind the reigning Super Bowl champion LA Rams, who are at plus 125. Are you like Geoff Meiselman? Are you high on San Francisco for this coming season?
Honestly, it's like a little far out where I don't really have a great feel for much yet in the NFL. One thing that is notable to me, though, is just how inflammatory, like in terms of opinions that get generated, Jimmy Garoppolo is. Like everyone either loves him or hates him. It's very strange. I don't know if like that is true of both of you. So I don't really have a good feel for like where these teams are at. I haven't looked at the offseason as closely. It's been like
Geoff loves Trey Lance.
But I think Trey Lance might, like, certainly has more upside. I think we would all agree with that. But it seems like everyone's like Garoppolo's awful or Garoppolo's great. Yeah, I think he's okay. Like, I think that's probably the most reasonable opinion on him.
I mean, he is fine. Like, it's not that he's like, he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. He has led teams. He's kind of like, he's like the Jared Goff, right? Like you put him on a bad team,
right? Like he actually is average, but his career has been so all over the place.
Yeah, it's been, and the one thing about Jimmy Garoppolo that I'll say is that he's mostly played on quality teams. And, I think you put him on a bad team. I think he'd probably still put up a good numbers, but like he wouldn't be the difference maker of that team of like, say, like, taking a 5-12 team to like to 500 because that's how good he is. I don't think he necessarily would elevate a team, but he's serviceable. You put him around a decent team. Yeah. I mean, he's got a quick release, like he's certainly like a proficient pocket passer for the skills he has, but he's not going to do anything that necessarily like elevates a team, which is why I'm so bullish on San Francisco. Cause look at 2 of the last 3 seasons they've done around this guy. I mean, it's kind of been incredible. He doesn't bring any like mobility or anything like that. Like I said, he does have a quick release, but he also makes like fair number of mistakes. He's good for just 1 or 2 terrible decisions a game. And San Francisco has gone to the Super Bowl and the conference championship in spite of him. What happens when you add a guy who's maybe just as better downfield passer, maybe isn't quite as proficient or as good in the pocket, but then also brings the rushing element. Trey Lance averaged 12 rushes per game in his 2 starts last year. He's really good, just in terms of a pure rusher. If he develops anything as a passer next year, like if he exceeds even just like slightly above average, I think San Francisco is all kinds of upside. And they already have the offensive pieces with like Kittle and Samuel. So yeah, I'm really bullish on San Francisco next year. They just have to, and I mean, look, there's a good chance we get a little bit of regression from the Rams here, who, they're a good team. Like I'm not selling the Rams out here and saying like, oh, we're 7-9, but there's a Super Bowl hangover. They played a lot of football. They're very like star dependent. One injury to Matthew Stafford and that team could suffer for a long stretch. So I like San Francisco. If you're on the win total too here, like if there's a chance they bring Garoppolo back, which is only better for San Francisco in real life terms, like for the division, because he got the backup if Trey Lance gets hurt or he sucks, right? So I think there's all kinds of reason to be bullish on San Francisco for the division here. As long as they're the underdog, like that's a bet I'm worth taking. As long as they're second favorites, I should say.
Okay. Win total set at 10 for San Francisco, an even 10. The over 10 wins at plus 100. And I would imagine
I'd take the over 10. I think 10 is like their floor, personally. I really do. Like outside of just like red herring events, like or black swan events, black swan events where it's just like, they get like both their quarterbacks get injured or something, or like, they get 5 running backs injured, something crazy like that. 10 wins. I think that with Seattle in the division, yeah, give me the 10. It's got to be their floor.
And they were a wild card team last year, so they don't play a first place schedule.
Their schedule it's not terrible. They have some tough games, sure, but it's not.
It's not. I'm looking at it right now.
And again, like Seattle has regressed. Like last year we were coming in saying, oh, the NFC West, man, like all these teams are good. Now it's pretty clear we have a pecking order here. So yeah.
And I'm looking at just going through I got one of the apps open that just goes through their schedule. They are favored in a lot of their games next year, which reflects win totals and whatnot. I understand that. But yeah, I see you get Seattle twice. You're at home against Washington this year. You're home. You're home against Seattle. Oh, I'm sorry. You play Seattle. There's another one. Oh, they're on the road against Atlanta. So they play the NFC,
but that's fine.
They play the NFC East, which is, again, there's maybe
that's
only
not
one.
bad. You get the Giants and Washington. Philly and Dallas. They're solid, but they're not like, we're not talking like Green Bay or anything. So
no, I'm sorry. No, what did I say? NFC East. I meant to say NFC South. I apologize. So it's
okay.
Tampa, Carolina, Atlanta.
I don't like that as much, but it's still, you got 2 weak teams for sure. And the Saints are they're going to have a very solid defense. So it'll be a tough game, but who knows what's going on with the quarterback position there. Maybe you get like a Taysom Hill game or something. So.
And then the AFC West. So they got to play Kansas City,
that's tough.
Denver. Yep. And they're at Denver week 3 and they play, they play Kansas City at home. So yeah, that's tough, but yeah, I mean, for San Francisco, a lot of this, I like to bring up the San Francisco angle because I think how good they end up being. And I know Jeff's mentioned it, the hangover for the Rams, but a lot of San Francisco's success might rely on the potential dumpster fire that happens in Arizona. That's all I'm getting at. Possibly.
Yeah. Look, I think that Trey Lance is a big addition. I think bring up the NFC West is something to take note of, because he gives them the ability to win more of those games against teams like Kansas City, right? Whereas you get in a shootout, all of a sudden Trey Lance is back there picking up like 40-yard gains with his feet and getting those chunk plays. That's just something Garoppolo wasn't going to win for you, right? So I think that's just a huge factor with Trey Lance, and I think that will show through next year. So,
Meiselman, anything in the futures market that you're eyeing in the NFL? I know you said it's early. It's very early. You're just scratching the surface, but anything that you're eyeing before we wrap up?
Before you added in the NFL part, I was going to say yes, because I am already looking at NBA futures. If we want to jump there,
perfect. Why not? This is great.
Okay, I got one NFL bet.
Yeah, go for it.
I got one NFL bet, and I think I've 2, but it's in the same market, so it's MVP.
You already talked about Trey Lance to an MVP.
Yeah, Trey Lance 50-1 MVP. I'll just mention that, but like, I still look at these odds today, and maybe I'm skewed by the video that Russell Wilson put out, but like, Russell Wilson at 15-1, like
and he's never won one. That's correct.
Never
right?
won one.
Unbelievable.
He's with Hackett as his coach now. Like, I just look at that market and I can't find anyone else I'd rather bet, like, other than going down to like Trey Lance at 50-1, which admittedly like has a lot of things that would have to work out. But like, who are we taking here? I mean, Dak, like Burrow is kind of interesting too, but like, I'll take the better odds on Wilson. Like, for me, it's between Burrow and Wilson, maybe even just take both. I'd be happy to really just invest in both those two guys and just let the chips fall. But like, I still think Russell Wilson has an MVP season in him, and it wouldn't be shocked if it was this year. I don't really like anyone else down the board until you get to Trey Lance, just because his odds are so big. So I just want to throw that out for my one future that I'm in on. I'm in on Russ. I like the situation there. I think he's gonna have a big year.
The way you put it too, in my opinion, in terms of coaches I trust, organizations I trust, and where you can find value on the board, I don't disagree with you, because I don't trust the Chargers. They got that Chargers stink factor at the end. So Justin Herbert, really, really good player. I understand that.
Well, and his odds are just, I mean, he's plus 1,000, right? Like,
right. So I would prefer the value in Russ in that case. Yeah, I don't trust the Dallas Cowboys and Mike McCarthy. Like,
I think we've seen the top from Dak. Like, that's my opinion. I mean, I'm not going to bet him. Like, I know he's a little bit bigger, but like Burrow, Wilson, I think those guys have a better chance. Anyways, let's get to, I want to hear Musman's NBA odds, because I will quickly say get more. I miss all these NBA futures, and these guys always celebrate themselves.
Well, just a quick thing on the NFL MVP to touch on is, we do tend to be very braggy about when we're right. But no, the NFL MVP last year, the thing that was super notable was just how much it changed during the season. Like, I don't even think I'm taking anybody until week 3. Like, I want to see how it starts, because there's so many very, very close quarterbacks. And yeah, Wilson could be like a slight value because he probably does deserve to be a little further ahead. But like, there's realistically 8 or 9 guys here that are all so similar. And then it's just kind of going to be like, who develops the strong narrative, a quarter of the way in. Okay,
but based on the odds, I think Jeff's onto something.
No,
Everything
I agree.
Sets up for us. New team, has never won it. On a team that the coach, like, no one knows about the coach, so he'll get more credit than the coach would if they do well. Brady, Stafford, back-to-back years, new team, star quarterback goes to a team with a bunch of weapons. If it works right away, Russ is going to hop up that board.
Yeah. No, I think the narrative could build for him very quickly. That definitely does make sense.
Okay. All right. What's your NBA bet?
Well, it's not so much a bet. It's just highlighting that the Nets have moved from 27-1 to 18-1.
Oh.
And I don't like it, because I'm probably going to want to bet. I literally think I'm going to be on the Celtics at plus 550 this coming season, despite the fact that they are the favorite. I think I don't know for sure yet. I haven't bet anything yet, but I do think I'm going to end up just like biting the bullet. It's like, it's going to feel so painful compared to last year, where it was the same odds with another 0 added on top. And now it's just, the odds are so much lower, but I think they're the best team. So it's annoying if you're someone who, let's say you're just a Celtics fan, like many people around us tend to be. It's going to be tough when the Nets have their team with Simmons and Durant and Kyrie. And I think it's looking more and more likely that, just based on the way the odds are moving, the Nets are actually going to be a threat. The top of the East has gotten really good. So the one thing I'll say, like, to be cautious for people who are on this particular team, the Knicks, just, take it easy here, because they've got to pass like 8 or 9 really, really good teams at the top. And most people aren't even thinking about like the Atlanta Hawks, who just got DeJounte Murray. Like, maybe that's my favorite long shot right now at 40-1. There are so many good teams at the top of the Eastern Conference. So yeah, temper expectations on the Knicks and even on the Nets. It's just, I think I'm just kind of calling out that it's unfortunate if you like the Celtics, or if you're someone who was like hoping Miami would get Durant, stuff like that. It's starting to get very clustered near the top, I think.
So you're not betting the Nets?
No, I think I liked them a little when we were talking about them last week at 27, but it like, with the uncertainty, I didn't actually think it was worth putting money into it. I think it's just an interesting story to follow. The two teams that I really do like are probably the Hawks and the Wolves. And then it's going to end. I think the Celtics will get added on there, but in that 35-40 range, like if I had to bet a couple teams now, my top 3 favorites would be Boston, despite where they are in the odds, and then Minnesota and Atlanta. I just really like the moves that both of those teams made.
So the Nets last week when we did this show, or last Tuesday, if we hopped into any of this, the last time we discussed the Kevin Durant stuff, they were 25-1. That was last Tuesday. Myself, Meiselman, and Garion. We did a Kevin Durant, or maybe the Tuesday before. I can't keep track anymore. The summer's moving too quick.
It is.
So anyway, yeah, that number's moving. So that number, just the point to kind of bring it home here, looks like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving aren't going anywhere. That's the point. It looks like they're not going to be moved.
The Celtics are still better than the Nets, though. It's every time I say anything like this offseason, it's just like pain. Like I just feel it. It's like it hurts me physically. But I have to be honest. Like I still think the Celtics are better, and there won't be any montages because they're the favorites. So like it's not going to be it's not going to be as cool if they win this year.
Well, unless they start 19-20 again, right?
What path to this
is that going to happen again? I don't know.
What path do the Nets have to being better than the Celtics? They basically just need Ben Simmons to like be good, right?
I do think if he were to,
Kaufman has to move to Brooklyn.
If all those players stay healthy, they'll be close. Like
Kaufman has to move to Brooklyn for the Nets again.
But their players were healthy last year. Their players were healthy last year, and like it wasn't that close.
They didn't have him though. They were one guy short.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and it really comes down to Simmons, doesn't it? Like,
well, they did play a close series versus Boston. They collectively lost the 4 games by only 16 total points.
Right.
Something I keep bringing up because I think people forget. The Nets actually really did give the Celtics a bunch of close games there. If you add Ben Simmons being healthy, it's a big if, but if he were healthy and you put him in that series, maybe the Nets win a couple of those. Maybe the Celtics don't even.
Is this Lakers thing dead then? Like, is it dead or is
Westbrook is just so bad that until they figure out a way to, like, I don't know, they have to get away from that to have any shot to be a good team.
Okay, well, if anything breaks in the NBA tomorrow, we'll talk about basketball tomorrow, but we'll talk MLB All-Star Game on the slate. Meiselman will be back. Maybe LaMarca will show up when I'm here, or maybe it's going to be Garion. We'll find out. But we'll talk a little All-Star Game tomorrow night and maybe even look ahead to the second half of the season. Golf discussion on Wednesday, I'm sure. Some NFL with Jeff as well, the golf gurus. Very good. All right, thanks to Eamon and Daniel behind the scenes. For Jeff, Matt Meiselman, Brendan Glasheen, thanks for watching the slate. The Sweat comes your way at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning on Twitch, YouTube, and on Twitter. We'll see you then.